Okay, so get this. We have a really interesting situation developing over in Nigeria.
Oh, yeah.
A group claiming to represent Biafra is saying they want to talk.
Hmm.
There's a catch, and it's a pretty big one.
Okay, I'm listening.
They've given this list of demands, and they're basically saying, meet these demands first or no dialogue.
Well, that's not exactly the spirit of open communication, is it?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
And what makes it even crazier is that one of our listeners actually got their hands on the original statement with all these demands.
Wow. Talk about insider access. Okay,
Yeah.
so what are we waiting for? Let's deep dive into this thing.
Let's do it. So for anyone who might not remember the name Biafra, it's not just some random group.
Right. It's a name loaded with history, and a lot of it's pretty heavy stuff.
Definitely.
Mm.
We're talking about the Biafran War back in the late 60s.
A brutal conflict.
It tore Nigeria apart. And to be honest, the scars from that war, they haven't really healed.
No, not at all.
Even today, there are still these simmering tensions over self-determination for certain groups, especially in that region.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when this group comes out waving the Biafran flag, they're not just making a political statement. They're tapping into a whole wellspring of emotions and historical baggage.
And this statement definitely plays on that. It's almost like they're trying to channel the past to get what they want in the present.
I see that. Which demand are you looking at first?
Well, one that really jumps out right away is this whole thing about withdrawing, quote, terrorists, unquote, from Biafra's 40 states.
40 states? Hold on a second. Nigeria only has 36 states, right?
Exactly. It's like they're claiming more territory than actually exists.
Well. It's
Yeah.
a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
I think you're right about that. It's definitely a power play. But what do you make of it strategically?
You think it's all about symbolism and historical narrative. They're trying to project an image of strength and maybe even staking a claim to a larger area than they actually control.
Kind of like how during the original Biafran War, they claimed a much bigger chunk of land than they could actually hold on to.
Exactly. It's a way of tapping into that historical narrative and using it to bolster their demands in the present.
Fascinating. Okay, so moving on, another big demand is the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Why is this guy so important to them?
Okay, so Nnamdi Kanu, he's a very complex figure. He's the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, or IPOB for short.
And they're like the main group pushing for Biafran independence, right?
Right. And Kanu, he's become this lightning rod for all the frustrations and anger of people, especially among the Igbo, who feel like they've been marginalized and ignored by the Nigerian government.
So basically they're saying, free our leader, or we won't even come to the table.
Exactly. To them, his imprisonment is a symbol of everything they're fighting against.
It's interesting how they're using these individual cases like Kanu's detention to make a broader point about their grievances.
It's very strategic. They're personalizing the conflict, making it about real people, not just abstract political ideas.
And speaking of real people, they also demand the return of Biafrans who are detained in northern Nigeria.
Yes. That's another layer of complexity to this whole situation.
What's the backstory there?
Well, there's this long history of tension between the Igbo people, who are mostly in the southeast, and other ethnic groups, particularly in the north.
Okay, and so these detentions are like adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly. The group claims that these detentions are arbitrary and targeted specifically at Igbos. It's like they're saying, hey, our people are being persecuted just because of their ethnicity.
So I've got a lot of historical baggage. A charismatic leader in prison, and alleged mistreatment of a specific group. That's already a lot to unpack.
Tell me about it. But wait, there's more.
Of course there is. They go even further and demand a self-referendum. What would that even look like?
Okay, so a self-referendum basically means giving the people of a region the chance to vote on whether they want to stay part of the country or break away and form their own independent nation.
High-stakes stuff.
You said it. It could be a peaceful path to self-determination, but it could also lead to chaos and even more violence. It's a huge gamble.
Like opening Pandora's box.
Pretty much. And they don't stop there.
Nope. They go on to specify that they want Finland to be the mediator for the whole process.
Finland, huh? That's an interesting choice.
Why do you think they chose Finland?
Well, on the one hand, Finland has a reputation for being neutral and good at mediating these kinds of international disputes.
Makes sense.
But I also think there's a strategic element to it.
Go on.
By bringing in a respected European country, they're trying to gain international legitimacy. They want to show the world that they're serious about a peaceful solution and not just a bunch of troublemakers.
Clever. So they've laid out their demands, framed them in a way that taps into history and emotions, and even brought in a potential mediator? That's a pretty strong opening move.
It is. But the question is, how will the Nigerian government respond to all of this?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. because from what I've read, they're not exactly known for being flexible.
That's putting it mildly. The Nigerian government has made it very clear that they won't tolerate any talk of secession. They see it as a threat to national unity.
So basically, they're saying, no way.
Pretty much. They might be willing to make some concessions on smaller issues, but I doubt they'll budge on anything that even hints at Biafran independence.
So we're looking at a stalemate. A group making bold demands backed by a powerful historical narrative and a government determined to hold the line.
And all of this is happening against a backdrop of deep-seated grievances and unresolved conflicts. It's a very volatile situation.
Definitely. So what do you think, listener, is dialogue even possible under these circumstances?
Can two sides so entrenched in their positions find common ground?
Or will this standoff escalate into something even worse?
This single word, Biafra, it carries so much weight, so much emotion in history.
And it's clear that these demands are more than just a list of requests. It's a declaration, it's a challenge.
This is a situation where words have power. The power to incite, the power to divide, but also the power to heal.
Let's hope that this time words can lead to a path of peace and understanding.
Only time will tell.
Only time will tell.